10, 9.
I can go upstairs to get my hair done.
You are looking live at Robert Griffin III in uniform, but will not be playing today. Obviously, the news is that he's going to be evaluated after the Tampa game to see if he will be ready for the opener against the Philadelphia Eagles. But we have a game today against the Buffalo Bills, the Washington Redskins' third preseason game of the year. Game Time Live presented by Verizon. Welcome, I'm Lou Holder, in with a very special guest, Joe Theismann, the legendary quarterback for the Washington Redskins and the voice of the Washington Redskins, Larry Michael. We'll get to Larry in a second, but Joe is here, and you see Robert Griffin III. You know about the quarterback situation. Just tell me the excitement. You playing that position, tell me the excitement that you feel knowing that there is 4 quarterbacks on this roster that all bring to the table something very unique.
Well, it is very unique. Obviously, everybody knows what Robert's been able to do, and they saw what Kirk was been able to do. And it's a shame he got hurt last week. Doesn't have a chance to build on this preseason. That's been very good for him. It's Rex's opportunity to continue to grow. I was just talking to Rex. It was an interesting conversation because, you know, he's very comfortable with who he is. He knows exactly what he wants to do, how he wants to play the game. And I just talked to Pat as well, and he's sort of learning this game all over again, having the opportunity to try and figure out, you know, how to play this football game, how to be able to do the things that he needs to do. And so everyone is different. Everyone's approaching it differently. But the one thing about Robert, you see him dressed in his uniform, right? What you don't know is he actually has his mouthpiece in as well. So this is like a full-blown dress-out rehearsal for him.
Right. With that being said, a lot's been said that, you know, Robert is really forcing this, trying to get in there with the Operation Patience and the warming up in front of everybody, have the uniform on. I mean, do you think a little bit is just, you know, too much? Or is that not possible? I mean, because fans have this realistic, you know, if the player is driving it, that's one thing, you know, or if the media is driving it, that's one thing. But he seems like he's pushing the envelope here.
I think what I like about Robert is he really doesn't care what the media thinks. What he wants to do is prepare himself. This is the way he prepares for a game. So if he can't play, he's going to go out, put his shoulder pads on, put his mouthpiece in, and go out and approach the next hour, which he goes through, just like it's a game for him. If you're a fan, that's what you want. You want to see Robert Griffin out there going like it's going to be a game. No, he's not going to play. I think against Pittsburgh, he tried to walk into Mike and say, look, let me just start the first quarter. That's what I think what they were laughing about. Let me just play the first quarter and I'll be okay. But I think in Robert's case, what he really wants to do is feel that he is in the game totally. And this is the way that he can do it. You know, yeah, it's a lot of Robert Griffin III. I mean, there's movies coming out, there's television shows, there's books, there's everything else. He's a mega superstar. But he's never, ever forgotten what's most important to him, and that's his love for football.
When you played, you had a very charismatic player on your team, too, in the person of John Riggins. Besides you. But Mark Mosley, too, and John Riggins. But Dexter Manley. But when the players are good, I think fans feed off of that. If somebody can back it up, you know, the media hype, it's a good thing.
It really is. I think for Robert, the key this year is to stay through it and get it healthy. If he's healthy through the entire year, it'll put a lot of the injury behind him, way behind him, and say, okay, he's over that, he can go forward, and he'll be looked at and treated like a regular quarterback would be in this league. If he has an injury, there's always going to be those questions about him. But, you know, this is a football team that he is surrounded by a lot of stars. You know, Josh, Pierre, Alfred came on. The offensive line. People don't realize 2 years ago, this offensive line was as maligned as any offensive line in football. Last year, one guy missed one game. All of a sudden now you have the opportunity to be able to put a football team out there that has a lot of confidence and a lot of cohesiveness.
You can't say Super Bowl because I don't want you to say Super Bowl. But if you were to say, if this team was to stay totally healthy, knowing that they made it to the playoffs last year, where do you think that this team will be this year?
I think if key people stay healthy on this football team, they are as good as anybody in the National Football League, not in just the NFC. Because you look at the NFC, you've got Green Bay. Chicago won 10 games. They fired their coach and won 10 football games. I think this football team has the ability to be able to play with anybody in this league and be able to win every game that they line up healthy for. But that's going to be a big queen. 16 weeks is a long, long season.
Joe Theismann, thank you so much. Joe Theismann, the legendary quarterback for the Washington Redskins, now another legend, my man Larry Michael. Larry, What a week it's been. I mean, 2 games at FedEx. I mean, I haven't seen this place in 8-9 months, and now we've seen it twice in like 7 days.
I will say this. You dialed up some pretty darn good weather today, Lou, because this is ridiculous. And it reminds me of camp in Richmond where we didn't have any bad days. It was beautiful every day. So sun is shining on FedExField. Well, let's step aside and check out what's going on the field.
Yeah. Let's do that. Is that Chris Cooley? Wow, Chris Cooley. You know what? And Chick Hernandez and everybody's here for the 3rd preseason game of the year. Okay, so now we're looking at the wide receivers. Obviously, at the last game, we saw Leonard Hankerson with a great catch. We were all saying that Leonard Hankerson was one of these people that really had to come up and step up in his career. Going into this game, who else needs it? Is it still
not him anymore?
No, it's not him anymore. He's off the list. But who? Okay,
Dante Stallworth. Dante Stallworth. You can count 5 Redskins receivers who you kind of feel going to make the team: Garcon, Hankerson, Moss, Josh Morgan, and Aldrick Robinson. And if they carry 6, who will that 6 be? Maybe it's that man we're watching right there, Dante Stallworth, who has not been able to practice much. Didn't practice much in Richmond. Had a lingering hamstring injury. And you know what he can do. I don't think there's a whole lot that you need to do to see from Dante Stallworth what he can do. But he hasn't been able to do it, Lou. He hasn't been out there. So this is a big game for him, especially when you look at the competition at other positions. The Redskins will probably keep 4 tight ends. So of those 4 tight ends, it's going to cost a roster spot someplace else, maybe a wide receiver. We don't know. That's why this game is so important. Those guys, I would say, 2nd string and 3rd string guys. 4th string, you're probably earmarked to be cut or put on the practice squad. If you're a 2nd or 3rd string guy, you can't afford to blow it here today.
All right. What about running backs, Larry? I mean, I'm going to be totally honest with you. As a Rutgers alum, I am rooting for one particular individual to do well, Mr. Jameson. But tell me about the running back situation. It was great to see Roy Halou do his thing. But what about Evan Royster and some of these other guys?
You know, I was talking to Chris Russell earlier, and he's one of our colleagues, obviously, from ESPN 980. He talked about the leader in the clubhouse is probably Evan Royster. And I said, okay, if you're going to use the golf analogy, if Royster plays par the rest of the way, does he have that 3rd spot? Or can a guy like Juwan Jameson throw a couple birdies out there and put some pressure on Royster, maybe overtake him? Chris Thompson you add into the equation, the running back out of Florida State, who, again, hasn't been able to be healthy, hasn't really been able to show what he can do. He's coming off a knee injury. This is a big game for him. Finally, you got Keelan Williams. He had a fumble last week. That's a bogey. He came back and averaged about 4.4 carry.
I love the golf analogy.
But, you know, he came back and played par golf the rest of the way. So you're on the money, Lou. I think the running back position, that final running back, if they're going to carry 3 tailbacks, that final running back position is between Royster, Williams, Jameson, and Chris Thompson. And you know, I can understand where you're coming from as a Rutgers alum, because they got a pretty good running back in the National Football League right now who's a star named Ray Rice. So Jameson, could it be another Ray Rice? We'll find out.
Right. Well, you know, us Rutgers people, we do it well in many sports, soccer included.
Not basketball, though, Lou. Let's talk about the basketball coaches.
We have Eddie Jordan going in there. He's going to change some things around. Ryan Kerrigan. Wow. The effort that he had the other night, and if Brian Arakpo can get back and be healthy, I'm telling you, that's going to be a game changer on defense, no?
100%. I mean, Kerrigan, first talk about him, the guy has really, really gotten good. Oh, there's Robert here.
Robert, up close?
Hey, Robert's here. He's coming in here. Hey, Rob.
He's the man around town. Visiting with.
Oh, what he's doing there.
No.
Oh, you know this is? Yeah, go ahead, Lou. Yeah, this is the ambassador. This is the ambassador from Japan. Let's swing it around and get it live. Yeah, wow. The ambassador from Japan is here, and of course, Robert was born in Japan. And so he's getting a chance here to meet the ambassador from Japan. This is a moment we thought would happen earlier, but as schedules sometimes go. What are you doing, Tony Wiley? Tony Wiley. You should have seen Tony Wiley at the Welcome Home Luncheon yesterday.
Was he a star?
We'll talk about that later.
He's my fraternity brother, so I know he was smooth.
Robert's here with the ambassador from Japan. Hey, Tony, who is this gentleman? He's the ambassador, right?
He is the ambassador to Japan, and this is something we're starting to do. We're inviting a lot of people from the embassies. Next will probably be the one from Haiti for Pierre, and then Australia for Sav.
Very good, very good. I like that.
Tony Wiley, I like what you're doing, sir.
Well, obviously, any place Robert goes, look at the crowd around Robert Griffin III here. It's almost ridiculous, wouldn't you say?
So Larry, did you see the guy at the? I'm sure you saw the guy at the welcome home luncheon with that jacket.
That long coat.
Wow.
That long coat.
Yeah.
Robert getting gifts from Japan.
This is great. And I love what Tony said, that they're going to do something for Pierre. They're going to do something for Pierre. They're going to do something for Sav. Yep. So this is great. The Washington Redskins are basically embracing all the communities. So we're just going to. Wow. You are watching Gametime Live. This is Gametime Live presented by Verizon. You can only get this here on Gametime Live. Robert Griffin III greeting the ambassador of Japan in a very, very poignant moment. Robert Griffin III in full uniform, Larry Michael. Full uniform. Full uniform. He's not playing. Full uniform, but this guy, you can tell he's just chomping at the bit, ready to go.
He sure is, and I'm going to ask Robert if he knows any Japanese. That is something I really need to find out. Yeah.
Hey, Rob,
do you know any Japanese?
Can you, Gametime Live, could you do some Japanese for us?
Y'all just gonna put me on the spot like that? Come on.
No, it's okay.
Ever since you got here.
Come on, man. I was there for 2 years. I do know Konnichiwa. Other than that, my sister used to be fluent in Japanese, but I'm gonna try to get over there this offseason.
Special moment for you. Congratulations. Very special.
This is awesome.
Look at this.
Go back to where I was born. You know what I'm saying?
Well, you got to go during the off season, my brother.
That would be my motherland. My motherland is Japan. You know what I'm saying? Gotcha.
All right, there you go, Robert Griffin III. Lou, he seems to be able to handle any moment whatsoever. Now, you and I might cave in a situation like that, but not this guy.
I take issue with him saying that we put him on the spot. What is that? Like, he hasn't been on the spot since he's been here, Since draft day. Since draft day, he's been on the spot. And you see how he just came in, did his thing, was able to communicate. That's what fans love, Robert Griffin III.
That is his motherland, he said. He said that was his motherland.
You got that, right? Yeah, you got that. So the guys who's going to be potentially throwing to are.
I will say this, Lou. You have lost control of the show, Lou.
No, I have not. This is Gametime Live. Gametime Live. We saw stuff that you'd never see on another show. Gametime Live. We roll with it, Larry, and we're going back to the action now. You talked about the wide receivers. What about the people throwing them? Rex Grossman.
No, look, Trent Williams is quarterbacking. It's like Trent Williams here quarterbacking. Let's see if the big man can throw.
Uh-oh.
Luke, you see him there?
Yeah, you got him?
He's going to throw out to Garcon. Look at this. Fires.
Trent Williams. Wow, Roy Halou Jr. right here, obviously a great game. Leonard Hankerson, obviously a great game against the Buffalo Bills. Let's go back to that defense. C.J. Spiller for the Buffalo Bills is no joke. They're going to have to – he's going to be coming hard because, obviously, this is a dress rehearsal for the regular season. So a lot of starters for the Buffalo Bills are going to be getting some action, including C.J. Spiller. C.J.
Spiller last year, Lou, averaged 6 yards a carry. I mean, that is such a good total. I mean, that is a Pro Bowl total in terms of yards per rush. But, their quarterback, E.J. Manuel, is hurt. He will not play today out of Florida State. We're going to see Kevin Cobb. We've seen him before. We'll see him today. And
He's traveled a lot, hasn't he?
He sure has. And a weird week for the Redskins. You had a game Monday night, now a game Saturday afternoon. So a real short turnaround. Redskins practiced Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. They went hard, no days off. Actually, Tuesday was a day off. Wednesday, Thursday they practiced, as well as Friday, 3 practices. And, God, I'll tell you what, Lou, we're as close as you can get. This is where you get the closest coverage of the Redskins right here on Gametime Live, presented by Verizon.
Because you put us here. You put us here, Larry. You mandated that we hear
keep an eye on you. I don't want to see you get hurt. They could roll up on you from behind, Lou, and then you're going to have that knee injury. You'll have to come back in 7 months.
Last question for you. I know you got a lot of work to do before the game. Larry, who are you looking for to make the biggest impact in this game number 3? We mentioned a lot of people, but if there's one person that you said, you know what, has to have a big game, it is
Jawan Jamison, Lou, only because he's from Rutgers. No other reason. No, you know what? I'll say this. I got to know him a little bit in Richmond. I didn't think he'd have much of a shot to get much action because of the other running backs on the football team. But if you look at Santana Moss, look at this finely tuned individual.
Look at the guns.
Look at this finely.
We've seen everything on this show today.
It's been fun today, Lou. This is why we're here. This is why we push the airtime of the show back a half hour. You never know what's going to happen on the sidelines here at FedExField. This has been a special show.
Well, I would venture to say that when Larry Michael's around, things happen. I mean, things just happen all the time. So, Larry Michael, thank you so much for joining us. As always,
My
the
pleasure,
voice
my
of the
friend.
Washington Redskins. Larry Michael, listen to his call for the Washington Redskins. As we look at some more players, we're going to bring in our other star, and he's looking very dapper today in his gray and his pink. It's Brian Tinsman of Redskins.com. So, okay, let's break it down. We've had Joe Theismann. We've had Robert Griffin III. We've had the ambassador of Japan. We've had Santana Moss. We've had Larry Michael. We saved the best for last.
That's right. You got to finish
Brian
strong.
Tinsman. You had the Brian Tinsman. You don't have your Gametime magazines, do you?
I don't this week, but I can tell you all about it. Pierre Garçon on the cover this week. Pierre is a guy who, it's tough to, honestly, when we were putting together the Gametime covers at the beginning of the season, it was hard to come up with only 10 guys to put on the cover. So you put Pierre Garçon out there. He's a guy who has looked outstanding this preseason. And this is the healthiest we've ever seen him, quite honestly. This is when, even last preseason, he was already hurt. And then, by week 2, we start seeing, we start seeing that, that foot start to bother him. And it's really been, this is the healthiest he's looked as a member of the Washington Redskins. He looks outstanding.
We're looking at Brian Arakpo walking at the 45-yard line now, looking very, very muscular, kind of like Brian Tinsman when he doesn't have his shirt on. Brian Arakpo still suffering for some injuries, little nags here and there, but this defense is going to benefit a lot from him being healthy.
Right, and you mentioned it, he's a guy who, he's going to have some injuries. It's just the nature of his position. But he's a guy who expects to go today. He's already suited up, and I think that the injury this week was a little overblown. He missed a day of practice, but he's ready to go. And he's excited.
And we're also looking at Kirk Cousins. What a scare last week. But it's unbelievable that we have 4 quarterbacks in this stable that all bring a new wrinkle to the offense.
Right, and all 4 of them are different. They talk about usually you try to find a guy, if you have a dynamic quarterback, you want a dynamic backup. They have a great traditional quarterback. They have a guy with veteran savvy and Rex. And then they have kind of an X factor in Pat White, who I don't even know if we know all that he can bring to the table yet, but he can certainly run that read option. And we're going to see that tonight.
I don't know if you've noticed this, but do you see Trent Williams throwing football?
I did.
Trent Williams is throwing darts. Look at this. You got that, Luke? You want that? Trent Williams throwing darts. I mean, he's very, very talented. But you know what? As long as he protects that guy over there talking to Tony McGee, number 10, that's all that matters.
And usually you have your quarterback auditions and your free agent auditions on Tuesdays, but I guess, Saturday's not a bad time for it. Wouldn't say he has the best hands on the team, but that's not a bad catch. He did throw a couple darts to his buddy Fred Davis earlier, though. And there's another shot to Dante Stallworth. So, I guess if you need an emergency third down quarterback, wow, that's quite a catch. But, who's going to sack him? Who's going to sack him? So, not a bad option, I guess.
Seriously, I don't know if you're looking at something that might, because if quarterbacks get hurt, like I said, who's going to bring him down?
Yeah, and
we're on to something here.
You have guys split off the line and go out wide all the time. Never seen someone go into the backfield and take the snap off the left tackle position, but
I think the read option would be out then. I don't think the option would be in for Trent Williams. I think you're going to have about as stationary as a quarterback as you could get, because I think that Peyton Manning probably moves. The only one moves quicker than him.
I think if you're going to have him run, you got to change it to the read rumble. It's your jumbo package at quarterback. I mean, that's where else are you going to see that? We talk about how innovative Kyle Shanahan is as a coordinator. I mean, if this is an option, I'd love to see it.
All right, over at the 30-yard line, we got Sav Rocca and we have Nick Sundberg. How important is special teams going to be going forward? I mean, I think we take for granted the fact that Kai Forbath, Sav Rocca, and Nick Sundberg and the job that they're able to do. I mean, field position is so crucial in the NFL.
Yeah, and you talk about special teams. They actually didn't have Nick Sundberg for 8 games last year. So for half the season, he was out. But when he came back in, they picked up right where they left off. Sav Rocca, we talked about this last week, is getting better each year. And that's kind of scary to think because he's north of 40 now. But, he's a guy who especially as this offense improves, he is such an accurate kicker that he can really pin a team back deep. And then you talk about Forbath. He only missed one kick the whole season last year, coming in cold in Week 6. And, he was as critical as any other player in that 7-game winning streak to the playoffs.
All right, last question before I let you go. I asked Larry and I asked Joe, and I'm also going to ask you, one player that really needs to step up in this Game 3. I mean, it's a dress rehearsal for the regular season for some of the starters, but then there's going to be people who are trying to make the squad. I know I'm looking for one special individual from Rutgers University, Mr. Jameson, because I'm a Rutgers alum. Go Scarlet Knights. But are there anybody else that you're thinking that is on the bubble that really, really needs to step up?
I think you might see number 47 a little bit more active next Thursday in the 4th preseason game. But a guy that I'm watching this week is Josh Wilson. I'm tempted to take Dante Stallworth, but really Josh Wilson. We haven't seen any of him, and yet he's a guy who's expected to be a starter out there. We saw him jogging around earlier. Coach Shanahan said he will be active. He will start. Not sure if that's still the case. He was running around in sweatpants earlier, but my guess is that he is ready to go. And I think that he needs to show that he's in, regular season form at this point. He's shaken off some injuries this offseason. He should be ready to go at this point. But, with the talent that they've added at corner and even at safety, it's become a competitive position. Nobody is safe back there, and I think that he needs to play and play reasonably well today in order to be, in order to get the 4th preseason game off and then to be that starter come Week 1.
Looking at Robert Griffin III's parents, they're here. They're much superstars as everybody else. This is such an exciting time for the Washington Redskins, and not just because of number 10. It's just that everything compiled, it's finally there that they have compiled the talent to compete.
Absolutely, and you're talking about an excitement that everyone can feel. There is a buzz, which I've never felt on a preseason game here, but there's the sidelines are packed, and you're talking about people who are really looking for that celebrity status from these players. I saw Santana Moss catch a pass, turn around, and sign 3 autographs. These guys are excited about it. The players are excited about it. The coaches are certainly excited, and the fans are really ready to get this thing going. The next time they'll be out here will be on Monday Night Football against the Philadelphia Eagles, and I really expect to see a taste of that tonight.
All right. Brian Tinsman for Redskins.com. And so we have broken it all down for you, everybody. We've had a good show. A good show. You have Joe Theismann on, Larry Michael was on, Robert Griffin III was on, the Ambassador of Japan was on, Brian Tinsman was on, all to set the stage for this 3rd preseason game for the Buffalo Bills and the Washington Redskins. It's going to be a good one. The starters will play. This is a dress rehearsal. A lot of the starters will play, but then there's going to be those fringe players. Cuts are coming soon for a lot of teams around the NFL, including the Washington Redskins. So this game against the Buffalo Bills is going to mean a lot. For everyone who joined us on Gametime Live, I'm Lou Holder. Enjoy the game between the Buffalo Bills and the Washington Redskins.
I don't know. Is it a photographer or video camera?
Video camera.
Point him out for him.